Welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra.
Greetings, ICO friends. Matthew Kramer here with another Mocktails and Masterpieces, and I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Fain, our guest artist for our next subscription concert. Tim, I've been an admirer of yours for quite a while, but this is actually the first opportunity that we've had to meet each other. I'm looking forward to working with you very, very soon and welcoming you to Indianapolis. How are you?
I'm good, Matthew. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be talking about this and looking forward to Michael's piece. Yeah, it's really a great pleasure. Thank you.
Tim, we've not crossed paths as I just mentioned, but I was associate conductor with the Buffalo Philharmonic for many years,
Oh,
and
okay.
Karen Arison I know is somebody who you know as well. You
Oh my
premiered your
goodness.
concerto, or you performed your concerto up there, I should say, with the Buffalo Phil. So such a varied background as a composer, somebody who's worked in films, plays, the standard concerti. I'm just very curious about how you became or were introduced to the violin, how you became a musician.
Well, I had actually I started on piano. I was playing piano, improvising on an upright that we had in the house, and eventually my parents just moved it into my room so I could just play it whenever I wanted, early or or late or whenever, and not bother them. And I actually the first time that I played with an orchestra was on piano when I was 11, and but of course violin. I officially quit piano when I was 14, and violin's really, of course, been my main instrument since then. But I still compose at the piano. I don't know if you find like score reading or anything like that or composing. It's piano is very conducive to because maybe for one you can play many different lines at the same time. You get a sense of textures and orchestration sitting at a piano, maybe a bit more so than with violin. But I don't know. It's a difficult question in a way. I sometimes one asks why did I choose the violin, or uh, it feels a little bit more like why did the violin choose me? It's go figure. It's an uncomfortable, objectively uncomfortable instrument to play piano in front of a keyboard, but clearly a very natural fit. Something about the vocal quality of strings. I don't know if you feel like that. The violin shares kind of a malleability or kind of flexibility of tone that the voice has. On one note, you can express so many different things on one breath, on one bow stroke. And I guess that's always really appealed to me, whether I'm playing 5 inches away from a microphone for a film score, or in a large orchestral hall. And so yeah, I guess the violin just somehow turned out to be a good match for me. We don't always know why, but that's one thing that has definitely emerged.
I love that, Tim. That's my instrument, the violin, before I stepped into conducting. And I'm so grateful for it
I
because,
Yes.
60% of the orchestra are stringed instruments. And to be able to understand the nuance of
Right.
colors, of, what the subtle shifts in a bow can do, speed and pressure, et cetera, et cetera. It's marvelous to hear your piano background, which I wasn't aware of, because that's the one regret that I have in life, that I didn't take piano more seriously, because I came to it
Uh,
in my 30s and 40s. And then as I stumble through now score reading, yep, for every reason you just dictated, composing is easier if you're a pianist. Understanding harmony is easier if you're a pianist. So it
yeah.
makes all the sense to me in the world now that you do have that background, because you are such an accomplished composer. I'm fascinated. I was enjoying your violin concerto, which, as I mentioned, was performed at Buffalo, but was it premiered in Amarillo? Was
Yes, that's right. It was the premiere was in Amarillo, Texas, with Giacomo Byros conducting. We did two performances there, and then I feel, very fortunate with that piece. A lot of it's gotten performed a lot, and I'm really happy about that. Most recently in Buffalo, and with Otto Tausk conducting. It was wonderful reading of the piece, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying it as well, Matthew. It's extremely satisfying to be performing an orchestral piece, a new concerto that one has written. I find it very fascinating and very satisfying. It As you can imagine, the writing for violin and orchestra emerged from my training as a classical violinist, really um, diving into all of the standard repertoire, Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Mozart, Sibelius, and some of the more recent ones as well, the American concertos, Philip Glass, Samuel Barber, um, Leonard Bernstein, his Serenade. All of that was very. I was influenced a lot by music that was written by composers from the U.S. In the past 100 years or so. And I think how could one not be? But it really just evolved from my experience as a performer, as a soloist, and wanting to create something that really felt like just that really fit who I am, And as a performer, one always, and you know this in your work as well as anybody, Matthew, that one tries to get to a place with any composition that one's going to perform. When you try to get to a place where you almost feel as if, well, it almost feels as if I'd composed this. It feels natural. It feels as if it's become sort of a part of me. Even with, some of the masterworks, Beethoven's Violin Concerto, you play it over and over again until you feel as if, well, you almost are making it up on the spot. It makes sense. Of course, you're not. You're relying on Beethoven's just almost otherworldly sense of form in everything, almost everything he wrote. Um, but there is a sense that you're almost kind of you hopefully have gotten to know it so well at that point that it feels as if you could almost be improvising. You're almost making it up. And I wanted to do that, but I really wanted to actually make it up. And so I started writing. I started writing smaller pieces for violin and orchestra, and then over COVID, I was um, extremely fortunate during that time. My family and I were in Western Montana, living there as we'd been for almost a decade before that, and we were in good health, and my kids were safe and doing well in remote learning, and all of a sudden, we all had so much time in our hands, and I decided, well, I this could go a lot of ways, and I had been incubating the idea for a larger piece for violin and orchestra, and that's when I really started to work seriously, to start seriously on Edge of a Dream. And a couple of years later, it was ready to go.
I love that, Tim, and I'm delighted to share a little bit of that excerpt, Edge of a Dream, now with our audience. Tim, that was terrific, and I'm so impressed with you as an artist, as a violinist, your diverse background, your interests. Particularly their work in film. I have to say, like you've done some incredible stuff with Black Swan, Moonlight, of course, that Academy Award-winning film. First of all, how did you how were those introductions made, and then working in film as a violinist, as a musician, as a composer? I mean, it must be such a thrilling experience. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it is. I grew up, I'm actually back in LA right now, just for a few days. And this is where I grew up in Santa Monica.
Mhm.
And I was, I guess maybe just by the virtue of being here, immersed in that world. But I also did some work as a kid, in a children's choir, the LA Children's Chorale, and we did movie soundtracks from time to time as well. And one of the more memorable experiences was recording with John Williams for the film Empire of the Sun, which
Mhm.
has a lot of choir music. I think it's one of Spielberg's most interesting films. Maybe not. I don't know. It's a little bit less widely seen maybe than some of his others, but I think it's absolutely. I mean, vintage Christian Bale, and just like it's a beautiful collaboration between John Williams and Spielberg, and the music I think is just lovely. And we spent a week. Basically missed a week of school recording this. I think it was in sixth grade, and just being surrounded by all the other musicians in the studio, this enormous space with two orchestras, all of these um, different, interesting instruments with, to my ears in sixth grade, I'd never heard before. Japanese flutes and different types of percussion instruments, water gongs, and all sorts of things. And then two choirs, the children's choir and then an adult choir, all crammed into this enormous space, and with the film projected and multiple screens everywhere around, and watching Maestro Williams conduct and looking at the screen and seeing how the music fit with. We weren't supposed to turn back and look, but we did, and it was amazing to see it all coming together, and that really stuck with me. And um, I've always, I guess, since then, really been interested in what music looks like, what obviously what it sounds like, but what it looks like, what is the sort of pairing, and what it feels like, what is the sort of a fuller sensory experience that music can be an important part of, but still a part of a larger experience. And not only the work that I've done in film, I a few years back I produced a show and that I performed in as well, called Portals, which explored what it meant to be a performer in the digital age, and plays between collaborators who are featured on screen or projected versus what is happening on stage live, in a way that I thought sort of challenged audiences to think about what that means. I think in equal parts, maybe sort of fascinating and terrifying, especially at the time when it seemed like this very on the edge of a very sort of new chapter as far as digital collaboration goes. But it was fun, and when you collaborate like this across um, different different forms of expression. Um, I worked with Leonard Cohen, was very kind to allow me access to some of his texts and his interviews, to create this thread of kind of longing and sort of mystery throughout sort of these collaborations that were happening digital versus analog. Philip Glass had written this 33-minute piece for me, the Partita, which was featured in Portals, and a number of other amazing living composers. So that sort of interdisciplinary collaboration has, I guess, been something that I've been fascinated with for a long time and continue to be.
Well, Tim, as we're discussing your varied interest as a performer, at the highest level of the standard repertoire, a composer, somebody who's worked in Hollywood extensively, but you've already alluded to this, your work as a creator of somebody else's music. Philip Glass, for example, Aaron J. Kernis,
Yeah.
you're working with living composers, and now you're giving the world premiere of Michael Shapiro's Violin Concerto at the Shore of the Sea. I'm always reminded, as a violinist myself in a former life, of these great stories of Brahms and Joachim, of Mendelssohn and Ferdinand David, of composers who weren't violinists themselves and idiomatically may be
Mm.
unfamiliar with the instrument and rely on the performing or the premiering violinist for insight. And as I understand it from Michael, you've made some even revisions in the last few weeks of the score. What's it like working with a composer to realize their vision of their work?
Well, I think it's very satisfying to have that sort of collaboration and to be working with composers who are open to that kind of collaboration. I remember one time I was working with a composer, wonderful composer, who I consider to be just one of the best of a generation and a close personal friend. I do remember that he was much less open to that sort of back and forth, that sort of interplay. I had changed a couple of notes in it, the sort of a cadenza, a place where the solo violin started to take over until the orchestra dropped out for a minute or so.
Mm.
I changed a couple of notes and I played it for him, and he said, "Well, I think I really prefer it the way I wrote it." So that was, that was the end of that. I thought, well, I'll just play what he wrote. That's fine. But a lot of the time, there really can be this dialogue, as you no doubt know, in your work, premiering new work, that everybody wants it to work as well as it can. And I think truly, when someone's really working at the top of their field, like you are, like Michael is, you want to be able to you want to work with people who you can trust, and you trust that they also really have this vision for something that can be just really something that gets to the heart of the essence of what is wants to be said in the music. And I certainly hope that Michael feels that way. I know we had a couple of rounds of going back and forth like boxers, like really sort of like, well, I think, I mean, it's just not going to sound good like this, what? And then Michael, well, why don't you try it like this? Oh, well, maybe, okay, maybe I could do it like that. And then these sorts of this wonderful give and take. And of course, it was all very friendly, but just really kind of trying to arrive at, and with Philip Glass, Philip also very much of that mind. He has had some training in the violin, but he's, by no means considers himself, a soloist or, somebody who really understands. And with Philip, sometimes even, well, Phil, what if we could take this up an octave and really kind of vary the range of the pitches that you use in these phrases, and trying different things, and we would meet and really kind of work until we both felt this is, it's done. This is ready. It feels like it fits my hands, and my heart, if you will, like a glove. And when you get to a point like that with a new piece where it's just really where it's starting to fit well. So I'm grateful for Michael for being willing to explore that type of collaboration.
And Tim, we look forward to your collaboration with the ICO as we premiere At the Shore of the Sea,
Oh
Michael
yeah.
Shapiro's new violin concerto. Tim, it's been a joy just to spend a few minutes here with you, to chatting about your career and your work as a composer, as a performer, and we look forward to welcoming you to Indianapolis very soon.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Yeah, I'm really looking forward.
Marvelous. Thank you, everyone.